Welcome, everybody, to the Business Technology Strategy Panel, where we are helping business owners and leaders to make technology decisions that move their organizations forward. Over the past several episodes, we've talked about developing a technology strategy that supports your business goals. We've explored cybersecurity and why protection for your organization is no longer just an IT responsibility. And we've also gone over the compliance and the growing expectations surrounding data protection and risk management. Today, we are going to be bringing you furthering that conversation and bringing in an aspect of technology that everybody's talking about and that's touching pretty much every realm of technology now, and that is artificial intelligence. So whether you're an owner of a two-person business or an enterprise, the chances are your team is already using AI or talking about using AI. Someone in marketing is using it to build content, or whether your sales team is using it to find research on prospects. HR is experimenting with job descriptions, and finance is working in forecasting. AI is kind of everywhere. It's not a question of whether AI is going to be there. AI is here. Question is, are we using it responsibly? And that's what we want to bring today. And today we have a really good group here to talk about it. You have a returning face with Nate Jorgensen. We have Zach here with Country Supplier, and we have Josh here with Technopath Technologies. Why don't you guys take a couple of seconds, introduce yourselves. Nate, why don't we start with you?
Sounds good. Yeah, it's good to be back. Had a really fun time on the first episode of doing this, and excited to get back into it. So, Nate with iWest Companies, I'm the director of client operations, and have kind of a lot of AI usage in our business. So really excited to talk about this topic and what we're gonna be able to touch on and share with some of these business owners.
Zach?
Cool. Yeah, Zach Otto. I'm the IT director for Country Supplier, formerly Cal Ranch. The stores are still Cal, but we have coastal stores too. So we made a parent company to hold everybody. Been in IT for over 20 years now. It's ridiculous to say that, and I'm old now. But yes, kind of fell into it by accident and found a passion. AI is can be fun. Can also be expensive.
Yeah,
but can be fun.
yeah.
I'm Josh Bradley, owner and operator of Technopath Technologies. Been officially in business for about 7 years. Been playing with tech since I was a little kid. And yeah, AI is fun. AI makes my job a whole lot easier. I'm not having to surf different forums and do different things when I'm put into a situation where I can't find an answer. So
Right.
it's just, hey, throw it into here and it spits me a bunch of stuff and you weed through it. So
Yeah. No, AI is, I mean, you started hearing hints of it years and years and years ago, and now it's in everything.
yeah.
It's in a lot of stuff. So, I mean, for those that are tuning into this, that really haven't played with AI much, the basis of AI is building a computer system that can work and do tasks that are normally meant for intelligent human beings, things that involve perception and learning and reasoning, decision making, creativity. We've all seen the advent and move from memes, from stable pictures now to crazy made up cards. I mean, it's just the gifts that are out there now come, a lot of that's all AI, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to differentiate between, a real person and AI is in a lot of these cases. So, I mean, that said, let's dive into a little bit of the beginning of this. I mean, you guys in your industries. So, what are you guys currently seeing AI show up in the company? I mean, across Southeast Idaho in itself. Zach, where are you seeing it?
Yeah, our first one, and it got hit it was pretty big. Not well, this note takers. and meeting note takers. You join into a Zoom or a Teams call, and your little note taker AI thing comes up. Not one in particular, but like the idea of it spread like wildfire through a lot of our company, especially people that were doing a lot of meetings with vendors and stuff like that. There were, some of the vendors that we use, use our partners that we have, they use AI note takers. And then in order to get to the notes, you had to have like an account to do it. So there's a whole, like all of a sudden we were getting all these admin consent requests to connect email accounts to AI things. And I swear probably like within a week and a half, I had 30 different, not just different requests, different AI note takers that I had requests for. And that was like the first big push that we saw into it. And then it kind of evolved a little bit. There were a few people that were like, I want to automate some of my tasks, or I want to integrate with a home calendar, so my calendar is all one thing. Some people that aren't in the IT department but are pretty techy. They're like finding creative ways to play with this. Eventually it's evolved into some more, but we'll get into that stuff later.
Right.
But that's where we kind of came into it, was like AI note takers. So you didn't have to sit there scribbling notes in a meeting. You could go back and review it later on.
Or they
So,
take naps during the meetings.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people's phone comes out on the table and they're not connected. So the real question is, do they actually go back and go through it?
I haven't.
Because I know I record several meetings
Right.
off of mine.
I record and transcribe our team's meetings, and I don't go back and look at them. I'm sure some of the people in our department do, but most of the time I'm not. So
Right?
I'm like, are you really?
Yeah.
Best of intentions. They're good. They're doing their best.
Josh, what are you seeing?
Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of it. Nobody has found the middle ground that I'm working with. They're either very scared of AI and that it's going to wreck everything, or they want it to do everything.
Right.
And so I'm like, wait, hold on. We gotta come to the middle here, because AI, like everything else, it's a tool. And if you use it as such, it will help launch a lot of different things for your business. It'll help. It gets rid of the tedious stuff, note taking for meetings, setting up reports, and but
Right.
you have to have human oversight. You have to be able to look at these things. And so some of what I've have to deal with too is compliance, right? So with insurance companies, HIPAA's huge. And if you just let an AI just go, you're done. If they come in and audit you, they're going to be like, well, how are you securing this? And if they're like, I don't know, then, so it's teaching things like that too. And a lot of people I've seen are willing to learn, but they don't know where to start.
Right.
They're overwhelmed because they're like, well, which one do I use out of the 100? And I'm like, well, that's where we talk about use case.
Right.
So
Yeah. And then, I mean, you do still see it. Like we get on these meetings, and there are those that no to go hop on, and they're fine. And there are those that will stop the meeting and say, that's got to come off right now. There's some of them that are still very scared of it.
mhm.
So it's interesting to see that spread, the spectrum of people that are accepting and those that aren't. Still, Nate, what are you seeing? Where are you seeing AI in your business?
Oh my gosh. Well, Josh, I use it a lot. I've a lot of the stuff that we do is so heavily data driven that it really has cleaned up a lot of the mundane in the process that was taking hours and hours to do. And I think what that's done for us, especially, my key responsibilities is giving my team a faster way to analyze the data to get the result. And, I've thought a lot about this, throughout the course of using a variety of different tools, and, setting up the guardrails and setting up everything to make sure that we're protected and in a good spot. But, I start to recognize that the usage of AI is very similar to what we were experiencing in the late 90s with the advent and the usage of internet and how it became more and more popular. If you remember, people were afraid of it. People didn't know. People were like, "Oh man, I don't want my information on there." Or you had the people that had the little tab over top of their camera because somebody was going to hack their camera. It's like the mindset and the idea. Yeah, it's like that idea is now transitioning into what we see with AI usage, and it's super important to have so many of those things in place. And I think a lot of what what IdeaCom and you guys have been doing with these series is putting in place a lot of the information. And I think this kind of now puts a further cap on that conversation. I do look at, though, that we also see a lot of companies that are sort of afraid to admit they use it, because they feel like it's now suddenly like, oh, well, I didn't do that. So suddenly I'm inferior and I'm no longer important. And because I'm no longer important, you no longer need me. And there's this idea that floats around that we're losing that ability, when in reality, I have a coworker. We were in the middle of a meeting, and with our executive team, and we're going through a bunch of information about data capture and how we're going to analyze and use it. And the two of us kind of had this back and forth, and we said, you know what? We came up with a phrase. So there's a shirt pending, okay? But it's AI plus HI equals success. The AI is what we all know it to be, but the HI is the human intelligence. If you don't have the two, you can't properly have the success that you need and the guardrail and everything else that can then fail you. So it's there. It's not going away. We just have to find people that are more confident in using it the right way. And I think that's what we're going to continue to develop to see.
Great. And I mean, just like Josh mentioned earlier, that human side of it is always going to be a part of it to an extent. I mean, there's some crazy applications even in this area that a lot of people really aren't aware of. Bonneville County Dispatch has their own AI named Annie. Annie handles the non-emergent calls. Over the last little bit, Annie has handled 64% of emergent calls with a 94% accuracy.
Nice.
So just
Incredible.
Yeah.
So those people who really need the help are now on the phone with a live person that can handle the emergent places. You can't put the AI in there yet to be able to handle the actual emergency cases. Someone calling because, hey, there's a window, or there's a noise. I need to check it out. Man, you can take care of that.
Then we get a Mercy Court situation.
Yeah,
Like the movie.
Mercy Court.
So
Yeah, let's not play that one.
like the movie. I just watched that one a little while ago. No, I was gonna say in our environment too, like we've got more and more people like I was like, oh, I want to use AI to analyze data, to do this and the other. And so I had kind of a rough framework built, but I had to hurry up and build a framework for like an AI policy, right, for how to use it safely. Make sure that what we're using isn't just taking our data to feed the beast, essentially, right? Like we don't have to I don't have to worry about the HIPAA stuff, right? But on the PCI side,
Yeah.
can be just as bad for the business, anyways. And so we have to make sure that we're using the right tools. But again, using that human intelligence too, because it started out with like 3 people were gonna get use an AI tool, and it was gonna be a pilot, and then like I was like, okay, we're not doing anybody else, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is working really well. I need this. So it expanded to like 15 people like within a week, and I kept giving the people kind of the evil eye, and they're like, yeah, I know, I already said we wouldn't do this again, but here's another name. I'm like, dang gummit, but it's been good because they've been using it. So much so that I've actually had to like buy extra tokens for them. Essentially,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that right off the bat. But no, it's been good that they're using it. And the only thing I've always cautioned them is you always have to take it with a grain of salt, right? You have to know, like I can read just about any programming language, right? Like I can look at code and I can know what it says. It would take me a lot longer to write that same code than it does in AI, right? And so we've used it a couple of times to help write a script or do something else, to help us. But like for my team especially, I told them, I'm like, we don't run anything until we validated everything that it comes out, right? So it's like that trust but verify type of thing.
But in the end, I mean, even now,
So
I can write Python.
Yeah.
But you with one of those, I have the wrong space, the wrong period, the wrong.
yeah,
All of a sudden, a whole string of code doesn't work.
yeah,
But I can drop it into an AI,
and
and
it'll
it'll
fix
tell me
it.
right now.
Yeah. And that's it, right? So there's like so many things. Like there was one company I read an article, it was like they had like it was like 6 months of backlog of program of
Yeah.
code that they needed to do. and they essentially dropped it into an AI. They dropped it into Claude Code or something like that, and within like 3 hours, they had 6 months of backlog like
Gone.
finished,
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. It frees up so much.
Which some people use that and say, and then the other fear on that is like some people are like, oh well, that means I don't have a job anymore as a programmer. I look at it from my position. I'm like, I'm looking, okay, if I can get my cashiers who answer the phones in the stores to not have to answer every single call, kind of use an Annie type thing,
Yeah.
right? Where most people are calling to find out if we're still open.
Right.
If an AI can do that on the front end of that and answer 60% of the calls my cashiers have to take, that saves them so much time,
Well, yeah.
and it's not taking away from the cashiers, it's letting them do something better. And it takes it lets them elevate their experience and their skill sets and stuff.
But that's still one of the major misconceptions, and that's my next question for you guys. What misconceptions are you still seeing out there, that we run into? I mean, that's a big one. My job's going to be gone. In reality, good AI application increases the productivity of the people that you have. It doesn't replace them. There are some. I mean, let's be frank. There's going to be some jobs that are going to go away. But just like the advent of the typewriter and advent of the computer, I mean, yeah, the typesetter disappeared. The typer that did the typewriting disappeared. You have word processors and stuff like that. But
The word computer applied to humans
Right.
until IBM, essentially, right? Until
now you have people like us.
Oh. Now the
computer.
computer's over there, and we're
Our job didn't exist before.
yeah.
It does now. But what other misconceptions about AI are you guys seeing?
The Wall-E experience.
It's
Right.
like,
Well, I mean, Wall-E, right? The movie. I mean, it's essentially like 20 years ago, like the foretelling of what AI is going to do to us, right? AI on the ships, the humans on the ships literally never leave their seat. They can sit there, and if they don't want to, and they just float around their ships and doing stuff, and they don't know what ends up. And it's all the AI taking over and doing that stuff. And so people see like that extreme of it where AI is taking all the jobs and we're not going to have jobs to do is like the bad side. The good side of that is AI is going to take all the jobs, which means we'll all have free time to do whatever we want to do. And the Star Trek version comes out where we don't have an actual dollar economy and all sorts of stuff. Those are like two really big, like the broad ones I hear people bring up all the time at the office.
yeah.
So
No, and we can see that too. I mean, just like we were talking about with the code. Yes, AI can fix the code, but AI didn't come up with the idea of what you're writing code for.
Yeah.
So that takes that human side of it that has to be there. So I mean, up to this point, you're still a human. Like I said, the AI, the human intelligence side of it has to be there. But Nate, what are you seeing? What's the misconceptions you're playing with?
Wow. Well, I think the biggest one is that people think they have to treat it as an all or nothing. Like that's not at all the case. I think they think it's either going to run the company or it's some sort of a gimmick.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, what is it? Like, is it really going to do what it needs? When in reality, it's neither. It's like it's a very fast, very confident assistant that is occasionally wrong. And your job is to manage it just like you would any other new person that you hired. If you give it good instructions, you check its work, but you're not going to hand it the keys from day one, right? I mean, it's just the reality. That's just one thing that I think is often misunderstood. And I think the other thing is that people, like I said before, that they think they're going to do it wrong just by starting. And it kind of defaults back to the first statement is you got to check the work and you got to do it. But you do it wrong by not starting and not setting rules and everything that's necessary to go into that. That's when the employees quietly paste sensitive data into random tools, and then you have a really big issue.
Yeah.
That's the part that you can't do. So yeah, I think it comes in twofold. I think we gotta get past the idea that not doing it at all is somehow gonna misshape it. I have I've shared this. Josh knows this about some of my family, but I have a cousin that helped design and write Copilot, and and in doing that, he's on a masterclass video that pops up on my LinkedIn feed all the time, and his quote is very interesting. It says, companies are going to either embrace AI or they're going to be beaten by those that do, and that's the reality. Not doing it at all is just bad for business.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Josh, where are you seeing? What's your favorite misconception?
That they look better if they don't use AI. You still get that human touch.
Oh, I see.
And I've seen that a couple of times, and they're like, "Well, we're just not going to use it because then you're really not getting that connection." And I'm like, I don't think you understand how you should be using it, right? I think they expect that it's going to put on a face and a pretty dress and greet everybody that comes through their door, right? And that's, if Tesla gets their bots out, maybe, but that's not what we're looking at. It's like, I like what Nate said about, if you don't embrace AI, you're done,
Yeah.
right? The people that have succeeded, the people that keep moving forward with their businesses are the ones that are taking the new technology, understanding that there are going to be flaws, there are going to be gimmicks, there are going to be things, but as long as you're utilizing it and working through the process of checks and balances, it's not going to be a problem. And in fact, it takes all of the monotonous tasks and it allows people to focus on higher activity things, right?
Right.
Customer relations. Like it can answer the phone calls, it can do the things, but as soon as the conversation becomes more complex, that's when it turns it over to a person. And I think people need to understand that a little bit more and realize, like, so I've had to use Annie before. And I wasn't a fan because it didn't immediately kick me over to a person
Yeah.
for an emergent need. And I was like, listen, I just I need to talk to a person, a
Yeah.
human, please. And so I think businesses that understand like that and giving the option, right? mm, They'll just be better at it. And then they can say, okay, well, why did the AI model not work for this particular phone call? Why did this person feel like they needed a person? And sometimes it's going to be, your 90-year-old grandma saying, I'm not talking to a robot. Give me a person.
Right.
And those happen. But overall, I think that, if people can understand that, and it's a tool, it's not here to take your job. It's not here. It's to make your life easier.
Yeah.
So put it in place and utilize it as
Well, and
such.
that's where that's where the two polar ends of that is, like you said, there's that side of people that really are afraid of it, and then there's those of us that would really like to have the Jetsons house.
And you've got to know your audience too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like we've been those phone, a Country Spire, we're getting these, doing some phone reviews. Every single one of them came in and they were like, we have this amazing AI tool you can throw on top of your thing, all this other stuff. We can make it do like all of the stuff. And I'm like, I don't think you get it. The rancher that just needs to know one thing isn't going to want to talk to a robot. And a lot of it's like a lot of people, their first introduction to AI has been the robocalls,
Right.
Yep.
right? I mean, I don't know, I get 10, 15 calls a day, robocalls, trying to sell me on personal loans. And I'm like, why am I on this personal loan call list? I don't know,
Right.
but I qualify for a lot of them apparently. But they're all AI people. They're all AI things. It's not even the old robocall ones. I spent trying to, cut off some circuits. I spent, a month on and off talking for hours to AT&T's robo voice, trying to get to a human
Yeah.
to actually solve the problem. And then the first human I got to was like, oh, I don't talk to the public. You have to call this number. It gave me a totally different number. So I don't even know how I got to them. Right. But it's a lot of people, it's that their misconceptions come from like their first things, right? Their
Yeah.
first thing, you get the robocalls, the fake phone calls, is it real? Right. I mean, we have the grandmas that get the before AI, they got fake phone calls or whatever from their grandkids saying, "Oh, I'm in jail. You need to send me money." Well, now AI can make you sound like their grandkid.
Right.
There's um what's on the internet. I spend, there's some nights where I'll spend half the night with my wife and we'll go, is it real or not? Just flipping through Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's because sometimes a sixth finger randomly shows up, for a half a second, and that's the only time you get to notice.
The guy, the back of the movie like disappears off the back halfway across the street.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, that one's real, that one's not this,
Yeah.
but it's like, how do you tell? And a lot of those misconceptions, those fears come from, there's so much non-truths out there
Yeah.
that finding the real purposes, finding what your audience actually needs.
So where then are you guys seeing the highest return on your investment, whether that's time investment, money investment? What applications are actually giving you that highest return right now?
So in my department, we're using a couple of AI tools to accelerate building out some data warehousing.
Okay.
And so I've got a fantastic data engineer, and he's been using it to accelerate some of the coding, essentially, right? You got to write in DAX and so he's like, I can do it, but it just did it way faster. And I read it and it's right. Same thing, right? You can read it a lot faster than you can write it. I got another person on my team. They've been using it. Our marketing team wanted to get weather data for like the last couple years from all of our sites, because we want to try to correlate, okay, good sales and bad sales to some of the weather on particular days. Why was June 13th last year so great and it was bad this year? Well, it's because last year it was sunny and this year there was like a tornado or whatever, right? That type of thing. And he was writing it all by hand, like pulling from these things and stuff like that. And then we started using this AI tool, and he was like, hey, give me a connection to the Weather Channel, whatever, for these locations, and do this. And then it pulled it all in, and it was able to reinforce what he'd already done and then finish up helping develop that. Our purchasing department is using AI to analyze, sales and, other inventory reports and things like that. We're bringing in another tool that's essentially an AI specifically for inventory and purchases, to do that too. That's another one. But our executive leadership team, they're using it to try to, they're analyzing legal documents and things. Those can get crazy. And so you're like, hey, tell me the highlights on this thing, or what about this? And it'll analyze them. I've used it. I talk a lot. I write not heavy-handed in a bad way, but I tend to be a little verbose when I write emails and stuff too. And so after I write an email and I realize it's pretty long, I ask it. I'm like, hey, can you make this shorter?
Yeah.
Can you make this a little bit more concise and make it so that the what I'm trying to get across actually comes across? So those are the main ways that I see it being used currently in our environment.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because you hear AI a lot, and it's today still, it's still, I think the primary use is almost the same as Google.
Yeah.
Most people just use it as Google.
It's just more power.
But Nate, what do you see in the highest return on the AI usage?
Oh my gosh. I think the fastest ROI for any company is anywhere you've got high volume, repetitive work, specifically that's built on, text and data. I think it gives a lot of that core usage to be able to pull in and use. In my world specifically, that's been in claims processing. I oversee all the claims for our company. So understanding the processing and how to build in automations. I currently have 2 different AI agents that run my inbox personally. So I've built into place where I've got a constant scour of my emails, and it's placing, the highly important, those that need replies, just FYI emails. It is really streamlined a lot of my day. I get, like most people, I get several hundred emails every day for work. So it makes it a lot easier. We have 4 locations and a lot of business going on. So it's been really, really good to use that. The other thing I use it for right now, and where I think has been really valuable for us, is finding ways to actually help support our employees. And one of those particular ways is trying to find ways that we have actionable data that's available to us for our delivery teams, and being able to use that to help team members understand how their performance is impacting not just one of our markets, but our key customers. on the road or in the home. It gives a lot of measurable, tools for our leaders to be able to then have live actionable conversations with. So what used to take us, I used to prepare for a weekly meeting for our final mile teams, and it would take me, I'd get in at 6 o'clock in the morning. My meeting was at 10, and it would take me sometimes all the way up to that 10 o'clock window before I had everything ready. Now I can get that data ready in a matter of 30 minutes. And that's with me verifying it. And that gives me a lot of time back to be able to do this stuff that I need. So I think the ROI usually isn't a we cut things or we cut jobs. It has to be measured by the cycle of time and the errors versus headcount. Like I think if you associate it that way, like what time did we save, what errors did we prevent versus what did we eliminate in our staffing, I think companies looking at it that way are going to be recognizing a major ROI improvement on their end.
I mean, we've all been there. That meeting, every meeting, when you're like the last minutes, you're pulling everything together, trying to jumble back through the information and make sure that you're organized well enough to have a well-structured meeting enough to be able to get the most out of that meeting. I mean, when you take a meeting and you break it down by dollars per minute that you have sitting at that table, some of those meetings become eye-opening on how much money you're spending just by using up the time of those people at that table, the loss of the productivity because they're there. Using AI to be able to prepare for that, and just the difference on how much further you get in a meeting that's well prepared for is huge. That ROI on that's huge. And that's funny because when you go back and you look at the companies that are producing the AI right now, they're still struggling to break even with it. But in reality, end users like us, when used and leveraged correctly, we're already making way more money and saving money by doing it. So that brings me to my next question. And Josh, I mean, we deal with a lot of small, medium-sized businesses here in East Idaho. I know you've got several clients along those same lines that way. What is the the low risk, easiest way for these guys, for these small to medium businesses to leverage AI and get the most out of it in East Idaho right now? What products do you think that they have out there that they can use?
So something that we have started using with some of these companies that I deal with is reports, right? It's take an AI model, ChatGPT, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Just pick one so we can consistently use it. And okay, you need to have this report done, or you want to write an email or marketing, right? My wife does marketing for her company on top of her other tasks, is reports and whatever. And so, it's like for a long time they were just phone typing and doing everything, and I'm like, no, take your idea as detailed as you can, throw it into this, see what it spits out, and then just refine it from there. And that makes it really easy because you're using something that instead of taking 2 hours to decide, okay, these are going to be all the social media posts that we're going to do for the next 2 weeks or whatever. You now take all of these ideas, you say, okay, I want all of this information split between X amount of posts, throw it into a model and let it spit them back out for you. And then you review it. And so you're cutting your time by 80%, right?
Yeah.
And so then it's like, cool, this is done. This is all my task list. Moving on to the next one, right? And those are, that's super low risk. And you're not just telling, ChatGPT, hey, I want you to make these, and then here's the access to my Facebook account, post them. No, you're getting it, you're reviewing it, and then so you're still having that human interaction. I think, especially when people are wanting to dip their toes into AI, it's understand that you are going to be reviewing these things. You want to be reviewing these things.
Right.
You go back to high school or college and you were writing research papers. You didn't just find one source and say, cool, that was great. This is what I'm using. No, you verified it across multiple sources. You were the verification process.
Oh, you had to show your work.
Yeah.
Well, and talking about college stuff, I teach for BYU Pathway as well. And the policy for the last couple of years or before, when I first started, the policy was like AI is not appropriate. Like, don't use it. Now it's, use it judiciously, essentially is what it is.
Yeah.
And I've had several assignments that students have turned in where like the prompt is, obviously most of the stuff at BYU, themed things is, you're comparing, let's say, technology to the church or something, right?
Right.
And so they're talking about like centralizing management of things. So you've got, your the church and then your areas, your stake, your ward, all that fun stuff. And they're supposed to take like that and compare it to like a server and networking infrastructure. And then they compare it to some other stuff. And being a member of the church, you've got a pretty good understanding of what all those things are. But when you take the prompt and you copy it into an AI thing, the AI does not have that same knowledge. And so it's very generic and you can feel it. You can feel the difference in this. But then my favorite parts is there's some of them where I know they're not reading it at all, because in like section 3 of the thing, it was like section 3, like, relating it to your faith, building your testimony, right? And the prompt asks a question and the AI answers the question by literally saying, well, I'm an artificial intelligence and I don't have a soul. Like that was in the prompt. And I was like, okay, clearly this one was an AI thing. And I don't mind, like, so we turn it back over to him and, we can't grade it. I turn it back over to him. I'm like, hey, look, I don't mind that you use AI now, right? That's part of the thing, but you have to read it and understand it. It has to still be coming from you. So I recommend rewriting this in your own words and putting your own thoughts into this, and then you AI to help clean it up if you need to versus that. But there's been multiple where I've had assignments that the graders have picked over, and that's literally in the response it acknowledges its own artificial intelligence.
They turn him in with the page still in it.
And then some of them do, like the prompts are in the middle of the thing, and like some of them have like the, they it's just the way they're using it, right? Some of them aren't familiar with how to use it, but teaching them. So I've been trying to help, like suggest like they have a mini course. There's 7-week blocks essentially. 7 weeks might be a lot of time to spend on it, but have a course on few different topics where like a couple weeks is how to use AI properly.
Well, and now, I mean, even in this area, Boise State actually has an AI science bachelor's degree right now, and locally here, CEI actually has it's an AI what do they call it? It's an AI literacy course. It focuses directly on recognizing the discrepancies and recognizing the issues that you find. So, I mean, the biases and all that come with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a long course, but it's a course that helps you use that AI. So there's things that are available to be able to run those. But along with the application of these things, the automations, the basic running through your emails, all that, when we see businesses put them in, and maybe, I mean, well, you're dealing with an enterprise size company here. I mean, you're seeing different departments, the discrepancies, and different people using them and having to deal with that side of it. But what is one of the biggest risks that businesses face adopting an AI?
From my experience and from what I've been looking at, the biggest experience with adopting it is not knowing where your data goes, right? Like I know people, I've been slapping people on the wrist. Now I've been telling them, don't need to, they copy and paste stuff into ChatGPT or into any of these other tools. The free versions, I mean, yeah, they do the thing, but you're also essentially feeding the machine. That data is now in their model to teach their, teach future models. And so when we first got the directive, I've been trying to push for it. We got the directive, the okay to move forward. It was like, okay, we need to find one that we own the data, right? Like we have to opt into sharing our data with their model. So it'll use our data to give us answers, but it doesn't grow their experience. It doesn't throw our data in there. And then we had to set up very big rules, so we had to set up some pretty strict rules on what types of data you can and can't put in there, right? Like cardholder data, no, you put that in there, that's not a good thing at all.
Right.
There'll be the same kind of thing with the HIPAA type of stuff, right? You don't want to put that out there because now you don't know where it's at. So the biggest risk is not knowing not knowing where your data goes / how it's used.
Yeah.
Because if you just throw it out there and it's in any one of them, it could be out there forever. I mean, the
Well,
internet,
and
the
most
internet
people
never
don't
dies.
realize. I laugh. I laugh. I mean, I've grown and laugh at the same time when people tell me, "Oh, I have a paid version and I have it set for
Yeah.
that filter," but they use ChatGPT or one of those, and you look at them and go, "Well, how many platforms do you have it on, and did you change them on every one of those
Every
platforms?"
one of them. Yep.
You know, realize that if you set it on your phone, that still that filter and those parameters have not been set on the computer.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So going and making sure that everything is correct. Data is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
HIPAA, your PCI, PII, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Having these policies out there, we're starting to see compliance organizations, Graham Leach Bliley, any school that's using or makes use of any of the federal funds for student aid has to comply. And Graham Leach Bliley is one of the only ones that actually has an AI use policy in it. But there are more and more and more of them adopting. So knowing where that data goes is massive, and people aren't getting it. That's one thing that you got to be really careful of. Your data is everything anymore. It's going to be huge. So,
It-
Nate,
Josh, let me,
how about you?
yeah, yeah. I had a. This is one I've thought a lot about because I think it positions so many companies for something that can go wrong, and that's where you see them really start to just they can't absorb the potential backfall that could or the fall that can happen. I think of I think of there's three key things that I think of the most when it comes to kind of the risk, and what you're willing to adopt and what you're willing to not do. The first one, I think everybody just said it, was the data, the data leaking, where it can go. You don't put people's information in things. You don't put financials. You don't put HR data. Especially into consumer grade tools. Like if you're going to just pay, if you're going to use a free version, the mindset of a company using free is bad. I mean, we all know. You just talked about the guardrail side of that. It's just it's dangerous. So the first one is that. The second one is often what's referred to, if you do some research, considered the AI hallucination. And basically, what the hallucination is, for those that are catching the term for the first time, it's basically AI states wrong things with total confidence. It's absolutely confident that this is accurate and I know what I'm talking about. But if nobody checks it, the error, it's gone. The error, we just ship the error. I just wrote a book, and one of the things that I did is I took my entire manuscript and I put it into Claude, and I said, find places within this manuscript, in this book I wrote, find everything within that could be wrong or could be driven as an AI, fabrication. And thankfully, it didn't find anything other than a few citations and things like that, because I wrote the book, right? So it's my own original. But what I did do is I used like tools like Grammarly Go. I used things like that are AI driven, but they're grammatic specific. So it's not creating a hallucination. It's creating more, factual and creative parts to that. So really, really, the hallucination part is a big part. And then the last one is the shadow AI. And the idea behind that is, when there's no policy at a company, everyone's using it. Everyone just does whatever they want. There's no oversight. And the common thread throughout an organization is speed without a guardrail. We want to use it. I want to use it fast. I want to make it happen, but I have nothing in place to protect any of my company. And that's a huge, huge problem. You don't want to slow down the adoption of the tool and the usage, but you have to put a fence around how you use it. And if you do that, then more often than not, companies, small businesses are finding themselves we talked about the ROI. The ROI is there, but the ROI is gone if you don't put something in place to protect it. So,
I mean, there's cases that have been out there already at the beginning of the use of AI where, somebody dropped financials into AI, and all of a sudden now the world can now search your financials, or
yeah,
you
it
know,
learns your data.
right, proprietary information gets dropped in, going, hey, check out there to see what's out there that has this, and that's something similar to this new patent, and all of a sudden your patent is now out there for everybody to look at and see. So it's having that guardrail in. But then also, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the idea or the concept of hallucinations. Um, See, I mean, AI itself, if you look at the what AI is, it's that internal kind of final output product from imagine a worldwide spider web of modules that are data centers, just people pumping information in there. But that means everybody's pumping information in there. That means the guy that's making crap up is pumping it in there, just like the scientist that just put a lifetime of information is now connected to it. And it's all in there, and AI is accessing all of those. So it's going to grab all of that information and it's going to push it out as if, like you said, as if it was truth.
Into new age Wikipedia.
Right.
You can confidently argue with an AI that there are it will argue that there are two R's in the word strawberry. Like
It's out there. Somebody wrote it.
I've seen it. No, I've seen a whole conversation where there's three R's in strawberry. No, there's two R's. It's like, no, spell the word, and AI will spell it and be like, oh, I see. Like but then it comes back even after it says I see, it still comes back and says, hey, there's two R's in the word strawberry.
Yeah. It's the concept that you said garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
And there are people out there just putting garbage out of the internet, thinking it's funny, and that called the machine learning module. It's on the bottom, and then the deep learning of the neural network of all of those together.
Yeah.
That AI grabs, it's grabbing that too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to. That's that proofread, right?
Yeah.
That's that pull out that the company going out there. So, so then, I mean, what policies should a company have in place before adopting AI? And who should own that?
Well, they should, not one person should own it, right? You should have legal look at what they need to do. You should have HR look at what they need to do. Let the CEO figure out how they should implement. Like, everybody should come together to figure this out, because if you let one person run it, well, let's say the head of HR runs it. Well, they don't know all the legal stuff.
Right.
They don't know that, the IT department wants to run it this way, right? And so if you exclude these other groups, instead of bringing everybody together to make a first good decision, like you have to have that group talk, because otherwise one person's in charge and it could derail the whole system.
Right. I mean, you get legal saying, well, it has to be installed this way on our systems. And you get IT going, you just can't install it that way.
Right.
Yeah. So I wrote our AI policy.
Right.
But it's currently, it has the word draft in the title. So I wrote it. I try to think as much as I can from the legal, the HR, all this other fun stuff. And I wrote it fairly clearly and strongly, right? Like, this is how we can use this. There's a table at the end of the policy. It'll be a separate document eventually, but it'll be like, these are the approved AI and who manages and how to gain access to those. Because we've got one that's like we have one that I don't touch at all. Like, that's owned by somebody completely entirely by them, and that's totally fine. Like, it's company approved. It's part of this tool. It's all built in. It's there. And then there's the stuff that I own. I'm like, but then, part of that, there's always in any policy, there's the, if you don't do this, if you don't do it the right way, here's what your consequences are. And I write the boilerplate thing in there, up to and including termination, depending on how bad it is. But in there, I also list on that table, like, this is the kind of data that you can, utilize in these things, but also more importantly, the type of data you cannot or should not use in this. And if you use anything other than these tools that are managed by these people, like we just found out today, like we have a Claude environment. It's fairly small. It's that pilot a little bit. Somebody else really, really wanted to use it, and they asked me about it. And I'm like, I've got to wait until it finishes through this pilot thing. Well, they didn't wait, and they went through accounting, and accounting said, yeah, go ahead and put a thing on your company card and do it. So now there's like a whole other environment. Now I'm like, fortunately, he just signed up for it. I was like, no, cancel it. Like you're done. You're not doing that. It's got to go through ours to maintain this. And I'm like, I'm happy to do it if you get the approval. And that's what I told you last time is you need to get approval to be a part of this pilot thing. And instead Wayne got approval to buy it on his own. But part of that is like this is the policy, but I'm writing it not to then come out and say this is the policy IT said so. I now, my path is now I send it up to the executives and our lead writers, and they review it from an operations perspective, from a financial perspective, from the executive, HR, like in the legal stuff. They evaluate it and make sure that all the right buttons are pressed, right? To make sure that we're covering all the bases on that. And then my point is to make the document framework their part of it and then include the IT stuff.
Because without
so-
IT, the wheels are going to come off anyway.
Yeah. You got
So-
to have us to be able to manage any of it, because you could say, okay, legal, come up with our AI policy, and they don't
Yeah.
necessarily know all the practical.
The final step is getting the policy out though, right? So the
Right.
final step is, okay, yeah, we've got a policy, great, we can all clap hands, but does anybody know about it? So just having it's not enough. It's training and informing the employees too. So as soon as I get this thing like finalized, I get the rubber stamp on it, is going into our LMS thing as a required thing for everybody in the office, at least, maybe everybody period, but everybody in the office, to not use this, because I know that I know without knowing there's people still doing this.
Oh, of course they are. Nate, what's your thoughts? What policy should we have?
I mean, I don't know if I could add too much to what's already been shared, but I think of I think on some of these panel conversations we've had in the past, we identified even in the very first one, I think we touched on this topic specifically, but I think an approved list, people just not willy-nilly doing whatever they want. There are absolutely superior tools and there are inferior tools, even with guardrails in place. There's absolutely some of the AI tools and application usage that is out there that you're just like, oh, you use that? That's okay, you know. Anyway, so I think the tool usage and what it is, I think the clear data rules, what is and isn't okay to put in to what we're trying to feed and what we're trying to get out of it. What is very clearly off limits. I think that has to be part of the policies that are in place for that, and really important. I like the idea of a human requirement. I talked about the AI plus HI side of things, right? I think companies will benefit to having policies in place that outline human review requirements. I think that's one of the things that we're going to start seeing more often is as adaptation starts to happen within organizations. They're going to see more and more of a, yeah, we got this thing out of here, but we want our executive team, or we want certain leaders to review things before it comes to the point where we're okay with it going out into public or going out within the organization. And then I think you're always going to have a gray area. You're going to hit a gray area in some capacity. I think it's just a reality. But people need to know with confidence of who answers to what happens. Is that our IT director? Is it our operations team? Is it our CEO? Like who's the one that can make the final decision for us to move forward when we run into those gray areas that we're not all confident about? So I think those are kind of a blend of what has already been said, but I think it just it's going to be important for policies to be in place for organizations.
And referring back to our last conversation about compliance, we do a lot with compliances, and that's what we're seeing. Now, you're exactly right. What we're seeing is that there's policies like this have an access level permissions, just like anything HIPAA.
the main HIP, PCI, PII. I mean, you name it. If there's a compliance rule for it, it's going to be there's going to be permission level access to things, and depending on what your job is, what your function is, you're going to have different levels of permissions and access. But when you put a rule in like this, most of those anymore are going to have automated emails to go out that have, number one, like you said, there's reviews. It says it's a, it's under review. There's a review, and that's why we see in the bottom of it, this is version whatever, and it'll also usually have a date and the last time that it was revised. And there's a group of people that will be looking at that. So you have legal, you'll have somebody in senior leadership, you'll have somebody in IT, you'll have anybody that actually has you know a, a that has something to say about that policy, that needs to have a hand in that policy, will have some point that they have to revise it, and they send out emails that says, read this through, tell us what we need to change. And then everybody from time to time will get an email that says, read through this policy and acknowledge it. So those that need you have a list of acknowledgements, so that when something does happen and you do have that backup or that disciplinary action or something that happens, and they go, well, I didn't know. You actually went through and acknowledged it for the last 3 years running.
Yeah.
And it's that way. You as an organization, small organizations, you probably do it in person. Organization size of Cal Ranch, you're going to want to have that automated in emails.
Yep. Or LMS.
So it's all in there. But
Yeah.
those things have to be in place so that your organization and your people are protected. And with AI, you're playing with a worldwide, not just the World Wide Web. You're playing with worldwide interlinked systems that are pulling that information everywhere. So I mean, you really need to be on top of that. But here's the other question now, and Nate, I'm gonna start this one with you. Should then a company that has an AI policy or decides to use an application of AI, should they have to disclose it to the customer?
Should they disclose it? I mean, so Idaho just passed a whole bunch of laws, 4 new laws about AI, just started July 1st. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, one of those is I think it's called isn't it like the Conversational AI Safety Act or something like that? Anyway, something like that. But basically, it legally requires you to disclose that you're using it. So, I think it requires chatbot operators. Like, you have to disclose for safety and protocols and things like that. Is actually probably more accurate with what it is. But I do think that increasingly we're getting to a point where AI disclosure is probably becoming more and more of a requirement. At the same time, I happen to be in one of those in belief that, why does it matter if I tell you how I operate my business? It's not like I'm going out there and telling you all my financials. That's none of your business. How I operate my business, how many employees I have, what my employees do. That doesn't make a difference. You don't care. You just care about the end result of whether or not you were taken care of as a customer. So I think in some ways it's probably necessary, especially as legal requirements are starting to build around AI usage, and we see a lot more of that happening. But I don't know. I mean, disclosure in some fashion is probably just good for business. But I don't have to give a job description of every single thing that I do for every employee either. So I think we just got to be responsible. Responsibility on this entire front is going to be something that we navigate in an all new way. And, I don't know. You can hide it or you can torch it.
Well, I mean,
Who knows what's going to happen?
there's other applications that we see. I mean, how many times do you get on a phone call and says this phone call may be recorded for training and whatever purposes? Those it's disclosed. They're a state That's a lot of the mandate's been put down to the state level where there are states where you cannot unless the other person says, yes, I'm okay with that. Idaho. So
Is not one of those.
until this, now they have to disclose it. It's there. What do you guys think? Should they have to disclose it or no?
Barring the legal side, right? I mean, obviously, if the law says yes, then yes. I think a lot of it kind of would depend on how you're using it, right? Like, do I, would I necessarily need to disclose that I'm using AI to evaluate if I need to buy 5 or 500 bills to pay for next month, right? Or whatever my purchasing team might be using for it? Probably not, because that's not really going to have an impact on the customer stuff. But if I'm using AI to like touch my loyalty program, right? If I'm extracting data from our loyalty program, or I'm using a built-in one if we get one, in the future, that we're using AI to analyze trends and to do those types of things, then that's going to have a direct impact on not just the customer, but that customer's data, and that they're trusting us with. Like, a lot of people, again, we're a farm and ranch store. A lot of our customers aren't confident enough to give us their phone numbers to sign up for our loyalty program, or an email address, and so, because they don't want to be in the system.
Right.
They want to be as off grid as they possibly can. Now if I start throwing AI at that stuff, then that might drive some people away. They might say, "Get rid of my data, take it out," and guarantee that it's out. If they find out the wrong way, right? So I think in those cases, especially in HIPAA too, like the HIPAA type of stuff, would be the same thing. It's my personal, like something that is tied to me personally, my phone number, my address, my name, my buying trends, my health, what prescriptions I'm on. If that's going into an AI model, I would like to know.
Right.
So I feel like you should probably, make some disclosures on that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's hard, right? It's a double-edged sword. Like, and I've thought about this question quite a bit, because I do have, the insurance companies that I work with that have to follow HIPAA, and for them, absolutely, because they're doing Medicare, right? And for Medicare, the older people, if you say one thing and then they find out another, you're done. They're never coming back to you. They're going to tell everybody, all their friends. And so eh, with certain business types, I do think transparency is key. I think saying, hey, just so you know, we're going to be using an AI to help us with phone calls or help us with scheduling. And, it's, but at the same turn, like, what these guys have mentioned, they don't need to know that I'm using AI to build reports, or to, build out these social media posts, or, because some of that stuff, it's back end, it's operational. So
Right.
it's not
Customer.
it's not hurting the customer.
the other risk to it, like being disclosing that, like there's a risk to it. Like, I don't have any evidence of this, but I can guess that McDonald's has probably changed its source of chicken for the McChicken a few times since the McChicken has existed, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
And nobody really cares. Somebody might be like, "Oh man, I tried one," and and then next time I try one, it tastes a little. Nobody really is bothered by that. Chick-fil-A though, they had their, we don't use any what the anti-growth hormone,
hormones,
whatever,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then they changed their thing, so now it's like none of those that are like important to human development or something like that. Like, there's a different acronym that they use for it. They changed the source of their chicken a little bit. People immediately knew. Like, people like, "Oh my gosh, my chicken sandwich tastes way different than it did before." And then you go find out, and because they disclosed the first time, we don't do the human growth hormone stuff. Now it's the ones that we don't care, as long as it doesn't impact human growth, are the important ones. Then, like, people got all up in arms, and they, they took a little bit of a hit for a while, then everybody went back. But they took a hit for a little bit, because it wasn't that, because they had disclosed it. So the other side of that is, if you're over disclosing, you know, then just because you want to be transparent, then that can come back and potentially bite you if you have to make a change.
Then
If you're a business that comes out and says, "I'm never going to use AI," and then a year later you're like, "Man, I could really use some AI,"
Yeah.
to help figure out this weird problem I got going on, and now I use it. Do I then change my disclosure, or do I just live with the dishonesty for a day? That
Right.
type of
As
thing.
a business,
And then
if you're going to put that
Right.
information out to the public,
Yeah. And then it's like,
100%.
okay, if I use it, then it's like, I will use, then you change your statement, right? How do you change
well, you
your
have a PR department.
statement? Right? Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But
I think consistency, right? If you're going to disclose, disclose. But if you're not, it's, but playing both sides of the fence. So, so you're going to get burned one way or another.
yeah, you are.
So it's, because I do remember the Chick-fil-A thing, man. People were
Yeah.
livid. And so they're like, well, I'm never eating at Chick-fil-A again because now they're using chickens that are having hormones injected into them. And, like Zach said, cool, 2 weeks, and then they probably were
They're
all
probably right back.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I miss my Chick-fil-A. Or the kids are screwed.
Oh, of
Right.
course.
Yeah,
I got to, yeah. You want to see somebody go back on their policy really fast, get a minivan full of screaming kids and, hey, there's a Chick-fil-A, get some food in you, and
yeah.
Yeah.
you're there. So there's I mean, when you're looking at that, I mean, you're looking at that customer interaction, when you're using AI, when you have multiple people within your organization or different departments using different AIs, and we can put these policies in place all we want. That human side of it is going to be always be the randomized issue. How's it going to come out? What's the outcome going to be? So I guess, what does accountability look like when AI makes a mistake and it gets put out there? Nate, what do you think?
What does accountability look like,
So
huh?
I guess, how should a business approach that when you've got 200 employees, 180 of them are constantly using AI of some kind or another, and that AI makes a mistake and it gets put out there to public. I mean, I can imagine a situation where, Cal Ranch puts out an ad, uses AI to do the ad. Somebody doesn't proofread it fast enough, and all of a sudden, now there's a high dollar item is now out there for like $199.
No, we don't need AI to do that.
But
Maybe not that. Maybe not to that extreme, but we've had experiences.
right.
But yeah.
So how do you? I guess, what's a responsible way for a company to approach that?
Well, I think gosh, that's a tough one. And simply because I think a lot of it is just training. I mean, it really comes down to preparing your people the right way. I mean, if people are hesitant about it, or it's the shiniest new tool and they're like, man, all my friends talk about it, I have it on my phone and I use it for this. And I mean, the greatest AI tool that's the funnest to play around with, if you haven't already, is Nano Banana. I mean, first of all, the name's fun, but the image creation of that thing is absolutely next level cool, right? But here's the thing: when we operated within our business, like, the habit you're trying to build is the idea of trust but verify. That's what we're trying to build within people as they start using it. Um, and it's the fastest way to teach is to show how AI fails. The hallucinations I referenced earlier. If you want to really teach people the best tool and how to put the best product out, is teach them how it fails, not just how it dazzles things and makes it cool. I mean, once someone's seen it invent a fake statistic, and it does it with absolute confidence, the strawberry thing, like that idea, that all of a sudden the idea is you can never fully hand over the wheel again. Like, there'll always be a level of verification that has to exist, and your instincts no longer. I don't think you can fan the flame of fear when it comes to the tool itself. But if like any one of us were taught, don't get so close to the fire that you're going to get burned. But it'll still cook your burger. It'll still do all these things that are really good. You just have to learn how to use it so that you don't burn it and you don't make all these things go bad. So it's the same type of concept. We're creating a culture of people that we can share the misses out loud and help learn from it, but not just share the wins. We have to be able to understand, how to learn through all those things together. And I think if you go to some of the things we've all learned, like a team that does this together, wins together type of thing. But I truly think that if you were to build that into something, a team that like talks about where AI got it wrong, it turns that team into somebody that uses it responsibly and uses it in the way it's supposed to be used. So there's just a lot of stuff that's going to come from it in the end. Sorry, that was a long.
You are good.
No, I like it.
Nate empties his mind. That's what happens.
I like it. I actually teach, talk to my team about it using whenever they're using AI or anything like that to verify then trust instead of trust but verify. So the trust but verify is assuming that the person is telling you the truth and then you verify it. So you can start using. I tell them verify then trust, right? Verify that what we've put in is giving us what we expect to come out, and then we're like, okay, now we can trust this is going to be good, right? So we do the same thing with any program. Like you write a script, you write a program, you do something. You need to know, you need to verify that it works before trusting it works. I've had, through the years at Country Supplier and Cal, I've had a few people that have written scripts to do things or whatever. Like, oh yeah, this will be what it does, and then they do it. They just make the change, right? They run this thing and it doesn't do exactly what they thought it was.
Right.
And like, I don't understand what happened. And so I get a chance to look at it. Like they ran it before I even got to look at this thing. And I'd be like, oh, like right here, here's this line, this one thing that might have, could have probably fixed this. Or, let's test, let's verify that the change we intend on making is going to do what we want, right? It's going to have the intended impact. And so I translate that into the AI stuff too. So verify and then trust that it's right. So, maybe the verify is, if we're a 3-person team and I'm the one that creates it, I create the product. You verify the product for me that it shows what it does, right? That's the proofing if you're doing a marketing thing. And then now you can trust because you trust me to create something of quality. You trust him to verify that it's accurate. Now you trust that it's accurate. So as far as like accountability in business and enterprise with this, I there may be some scenarios where you point at like an individual person, right? But you have to build because you can blame the AI all you want to. The AI is only going to do what you tell it to do.
Right.
So ultimately, it comes down to who's in front of the keyboard. But in order to make it so that the pressure to fail doesn't overwhelm the desire to create, you build in a procedure that is a multi-person thing, right? Somebody creates, some other people verify, and then you can trust it. And so if something does get through, it's not just the AI's problem. I guess is we still have errors in our ads occasionally, and we're not using AI to build these things. They're building them by hand, and it's an incredible amount of work that they're putting into this. And it's like, holy cow, I can't comprehend all of the stuff they do in the marketing department, the content creation to build these things. And there's going to be mistakes sometimes. And those things go through like the half a dozen people that have created the ad to like another dozen plus people like in purchasing and other places to look at it, make sure pricing and SKUs are correct, and then to operations to make sure that the ad looks okay for this, and then finally back to marketing to make sure that the design is still pretty, it's still nice for it. And still there's things where it's like it comes up and it's like, holy cow, like how did we miss this? Like it was seen by 50 people.
Right.
And so you build processes and procedures to help make sure that accountability is not necessarily just on the one person at the keyboard, but you recognize that it's still a computer. It's just a really fast, fancy named one. So it's only going to do what you tell it to do.
It's still a computer in the end.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is what I'm hearing you guys say too, and that's really my next question is what should we be? How should we be educating people in business today when it comes to the use of AI? And one of those people are really good about telling AI what they want it to do. They're not very good about telling you how to check it yourself. And it's a key point in that prompt in that side is being able to tell it, this is how you check and this is what it should look like in the end. And then being able to go back to it. But then on top of that, handing it to about 5 other people to do the same thing to make sure that it's correct.
Did you read the article, or I read an article about it, and it was like Claude was writing its own code, like to upgrade to the next version of itself. Like,
I've
like
read it.
it's literally, it's not like developers writing it and then it's checking it. It's like in the article they said like it's writing the next version of itself. And I'm like, how terrifying is Skynet right there? No,
right.
but it again is that verified thing. But no,
Yeah, they're guaranteed.
Yeah.
On the back. There's an army of people they're checking.
I would hope.
It may be.
I would really hope.
AI is really good at analytics, so it can look at it and it could highlight the areas where there's the common fails, and it could analyze that and look at what would be the best steps to take to fix that. But there's always going to be somebody in the background going, no, not that, and no, not
But
this.
that's the key. Is there's somebody in the background, right?
Yes.
There's got to be somebody checking.
It
these
has
things.
to be.
In my environment, I'm never gonna say AI is gonna replace one of my people. I can't.
No.
Right? I have to have the people to verify to know that it's gonna work. Now, it can make their work a lot faster
Oh yeah.
and far more efficient.
Yeah.
But you still have to have people that know what you're trying to accomplish and what those outcomes are supposed to be.
Well, that talks back to that initial question that we had, right? Where's the return on the investment?
Yeah.
How many cumulatively, if you added the minutes that people in the entire organization are on the phone for you going, we're open at 8,
Yeah.
we're open at 8, or somebody that's in an HR in the back going, no, they're answering the same question over and over again. Somebody that's in IT going, I forgot my password. It's locked. How many cumulative hours are you paying for somebody to answer the same question? And AI can miss that.
Life cycle tickets, onboarding, terminations, changes.
Yeah.
If I can automate that once I get all the connectors in place.
So, I mean, we're getting up against time here, and I just want to ask a couple more questions here. But what do you think, Josh, in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you think AI, or how do you think AI is going to reshape the business environment in East Idaho?
Idaho, Southeast Idaho is hard.
We're about
They-
6 months behind everybody.
You get a lot of people that are like stuck in their ways. They like it how it's been, it works how it's been, and they don't want to change stuff. But we're actually starting to see a little bit of traction, right? I'm starting to see like they're like, oh, maybe this isn't as scary. Like I'm a younger guy, and so I was in grade school when Y2K happened, right? And so I remember everybody losing their minds, and then
Yeah.
gradually the internet got traction, and then nobody was scared. And then smartphones came out, and everybody's like, well, wait, hold on. Now we can have all of this right at our hands, and now nobody cares. Everybody is using it. Everybody has finally been like, yeah, of course I'm going to have a smartphone. Of course I'm going to use AI, right? Because of the productivity, right? You're eliminating hundreds, thousands of hours of tedious just work that you don't need to be doing. That makes businesses more profitable,
Right.
right? And so in 3 to 5 years, I think nobody's going to be freaking out about it, right? And you're starting to see the fear kind of dwindle, right? There's still some of it, but it's not as bad as it was 2 years ago. And it's funny because the conversation I was having with people 2 years ago is I was like, remember the Xbox 360? You remember Milo on the Xbox 360? He was an AI. That was 15 years ago. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, what are you worried about? Like, all this is, they just keep developing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was all of these really basic AI things, and people are gonna adopt it. Like Nate said, they're gonna adopt it or they're gonna die. Right? There's no way around it. And artificial intelligence plus human intelligence, you have to have both.
Right.
Nate, I love that, and I'm gonna steal that.
The t-shirts coming. T-shirts coming.
Yeah, I mean that.
Sign me
it
up.
makes
Well, I mean, how
sense.
long have we been using Google and having it predict what we're trying to write?
Yes.
Predictive text has been around for a decade or better.
That's
So
a
Predictive
infant
text on a
level.
T9. It's
Yeah.
been out there for 30 years. It's
Yeah.
T9 phone, predictive texting.
And it's an AI.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a machine learning module based in there. It's just telling you, oh, describe what you're trying to say.
I think people are freaked out because they do not have the education, or they're not taking the time to differentiate between a real person and a machine. And I think that is the very core of what scares people, is they can't tell the difference.
So I just want to go through one last question for all you guys. I want to hear, if you could give a piece of advice to a business owner in East Idaho to help them being prepared for the next 3 to 5 years, what one piece of advice would you give them? Nate, go for it.
Well, I would say start. Even if it's small, start. Start and be safe about it today. Um, I don't think people have to transform their whole company or, do anything. I think it's going to be more about augmentation over replacement and finding ways to be better at it. Um, you don't have to, just pick one task that you hate doing every day and find a way to use an AI within a guardrail safely put in place that can start the confidence. You got to start building confidence in how it's being used. Um, and then make sure you check the result from it. I think that's, companies that start and they start safe. Um, I think the real risk on anything is that suddenly you get it wrong. But if you have some of those guardrails in place, things in place, I love the idea. I think Zach, you shared like, you'll write the email and you're like, okay, now I need to consolidate this to be a little bit more concise. I always used to tell my staff, like, it's okay to write the email, just don't send it. You don't have to send the email. Right. So like I just think there's some things that go into place to that. And that's kind of we have to use the human intelligence side of that to do it. But I said it before and I'll continue to say it is if you're gonna sit out of this too long, you're gonna be trying to catch up on something that you cannot catch up on. And you're gonna find yourself trying to manage a risk over a judgment call day after day after day. And the companies that are going to embrace this, they're going to do it with really good tools. They're going to cost you money, but those tools are going to benefit you in the long run. And it's not something that is a threat that you have to be afraid of.
I'd say do it with purpose. It's a lot like the iPhone, right? When Steve Jobs got up there and announced the iPhone, he's like, "This is a phone, it's an iPod, it's a web browser, whatever, all these things, right? It's a texting machine, it's all these things." And it was like, "When it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, right? It's all one thing. It's all these are in one thing." I think right now, the AI is used so generally that it can be overwhelming to know what to do with it, right? You get companies like I've had people, I want to use AI in the business. I want to use AI to do this. I'm like, well, how do you want to use it? So my number one suggestion recommend is know your story, right? That's my rule number one in my house anyways, but it's know your story. What are you trying to accomplish with it? Don't just say, I'm going to start using AI. Am I going to use AI to do marketing? Am I going to use AI to help me do the financials? Because I'm a small business owner. I don't want to deal with the payroll part of it. I want something else, whatever, right? Automatic invoicing, right? Make an AI do that. So you don't have to sit there and send those emails out. Just make sure you know what you want to do with it and pick one thing. Pick one thing to try to find and try to figure that out. And then once you understand that, expand into the next and then the next. If you try to do it all at once, or you just say, I'm going to do AI and you get something, you just not gonna pan out the way that you want to.
Good point. So like Dave said, do it.
Yep.
Get used to it. Be intentional about it. I love that.
Yeah.
Be intentional about it. Know what you're going after, so you're not just going after a little bit of everything. Gosh, what's your
There's not a
with
whole
it?
lot left to say on that one. I mean, it's kind of when I was going over questions, it was if you're wanting to use it, start and have a purpose, right? Reiterating what these guys have already said, it's you don't want to go into this blind. So it's do your research, right? Figure out which model is operating within the parameters of your business, right? You've got to make sure it's hitting compliance and got to make sure that, all the things matter. And then start using it and use it on a small scale. And nobody's telling you that you can only use it to automate your reports for a week and then now you have to let it send all the emails to your customers. Nobody cares. Use it and use it as long as it takes you to get comfortable and understand the model. Because if you don't understand the model and understand what it's doing, it's not going to benefit you anyway. Because now you're trying to get it to replace the task without the human involvement. And so it all has to come together. You have to do all of these things, and there's no the only issue is if you don't start,
Right.
right? If you don't, then you're just way behind. It's like the people that finally got pushed out of basic phones, out of flip phones, right? And they had to get into a smartphone. I think it was what, 3, 4 years ago when 3G died. And they were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to use this. And it's like, well, now they're really advanced and you
Yes.
waited a long time.
Yeah.
So it's start and do your research, and there's no timeline on when you have to implement stuff.
Agreed. No, and it can be overwhelming, but I think that that is a solid bit of advice from all three of you guys that, getting somebody to start, being intentional from the beginning, knowing where they're going to go, and then getting to know it well so that you can actually use it well. It can be overwhelming. That's really why we exist with IdeaComm, is to be able to sit down and put that forward. Be able to sit down and say, okay, what technology do you after, where to go? How do you want it to look? Knowing that from the beginning, then you can build that tech strategy around it, and AI is going to be part of it. From at this point, it's in the middle of everything. It's in your phones, it's in your computer, of course. But being able to build that correctly, get the right policies in place, get the right education in place, so then it becomes a tool that makes your business more efficient, which is what technology should be doing. It should make you more efficient and make you so you get way more productivity out of the people that you have. I mean, we're almost inventing time at this point. It used to be, if I could have 24 more hours, what happens if you double the productivity of your person? You just gain 24 hours.
Right.
And that's what technology, when leveraged correctly, will do. So no, I appreciate you guys coming in. I mean, incredible minds that are in this area right now, in the middle of it, working with it. So, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate your time. Nate, it's great to see you again. Hopefully we'll have you guys back on. We got plenty more of these coming. So, if you guys have questions, feel free to answer. It's going to be on our YouTube. So there's going to be questions and comments. You guys feel free to pipe in there. So we appreciate you guys. Have a good night.